Hi, it's Chris Gio from Merchant Method, and today is Tuesday, January 23rd, 2017. I'm really excited to talk about the state of brick and mortar retail today. This trend report is very specific to independent and small retailers that sell in a brick and mortar location, that pay rent in a brick and mortar location. The purpose really is to provide high level insight so that you can understand how your business is positioned around all the retail types that are in the industry. And it's really to share insight into what's happening overall, because the overall industry trend is worthy of your consideration and is worthy of your response. As a small business owner, it's really common and comfortable to operate in a space, in a bubble, if you will, among other small businesses that transact with small business shoppers and a loyal small business customer base. But we need to be very realistic with ourselves that customers don't only shop that way. Customers shop both fast production and slow production, as in fast, trendy fashion that can come to market in 8 weeks from overseas, all the way through slow fashion that's made by hand that takes about 8 weeks, 8 like solid weeks for one person to produce one item. Customers shop both high and low, from really quality goods with a higher price point to low items that are made in high quantity and maybe of questionable quality. We know that customers shop both near and far, as in their local community, and far as in online from another country. They just shop differently. So, even think about the last time you hosted a big party. I know the last time I hosted a big party, I shopped in a lot of different places. I got my specialty items from a specialty shop. I wanted locally made dark chocolate covered caramels with sea salt from the local company that makes that really, really good. I also bought other groceries that weren't as important to be sourced locally from a general grocery store. I bought wine and champagne from my local specialty liquor store. I purchased tableware and consumables specifically from a party supply store. Maybe you're picking them up at Costco. All of those ways that we shop is how your customer shops as well. And so maybe they're going to a Whole Foods and a Trader Joe's and shopping at Costco and going to their local grocery store. And so we need to be thinking along those lines so that we can be inclusive of how your customer shops, so that we're not painting a picture of aspiration that might almost give your customer a complex for not being 100% locally made, locally sourced all the time, but just being inclusive and acknowledging that you as a retailer are one part of our entire shopping list. So as you listen to today's trend report, I'm going to ask you to ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, how do you use this knowledge to better inform your business choices? And then number 2, how could this information impact your business now, or how could it have downstream implications to your business? And really take the time to digest what's happening in the industry overall, because next week I'm going to be focusing on how you can use your size as an independent retailer or small retailer to your advantage, and knowing where you are situated in the entire industry is going to help you move more swiftly and with more confidence. So before we talk about that, I definitely want to share a story with you. And as you know, my background includes many, many years of experience in corporate retail. And one of those experiences includes working for a full-line department store. So if you're not familiar with the phrase full line, it's any store that carries a huge, broad range of products. So Costco or a grocery store is a full-line store. Department stores traditionally are full-line stores, Target, Kmart, Walmart, full-line stores, because they carry so many things. You can even argue that a Best Buy, even though they're focused on tech and hardware, they're a full-line store. So I have worked for many full-line stores. And one of my most favorite roles was focused on the customer experience and really studying what makes for a satisfying customer experience and therefore a profitable customer experience. And we really had, our question, what we were investigating was how do customers shop and how do they want to shop? And that's like the big question for every retailer. Every retailer is consistently asking themselves, how do our customers shop and how do they want to shop? That's how we remain really competitive. And in its most understated form, in its most simple to understand form, retailers often ask themselves, and we were asking ourselves, do customers shop first by filter A, then by filter B? Or do they shop first by filter B, then by filter A, right? Because there's levels of importance. Think through a time where you saw something that was amazing and that you really, really liked, and then you looked at the price point and it wasn't worth it. Or you see something and then you see the price point and think, oh, it's on sale, this makes it worth it, right? So we have many considerations when we shop. And in its simplest way of understanding how do customers shop and how do they want to shop, we're investigating, are they shopping first by occasion or are they shopping first by style, right? So occasion first, style second, or style first, occasion second. And for a department store that carries the full line of products, for any of these department stores, that's a critical question. So I want to give you some examples of what it means to shop by occasion. Think of a traditional department store, and if you needed to buy a dress, are you going to the fancy dress section or the casual dress section? If you are shopping for a prom dress or a dress to wear to your wedding rehearsal, you are going to special occasion, fancy dress land. If you're shopping for a dress to brunch in with your girlfriends or something for, a fun weekend away for your birthday, you're maybe going to the casual ready-to-wear section. And so they are typically located in two different parts of a traditional department store. They might be adjacent, but they are in very distinct lanes. They're typically bought by different buyers and sold by two different teams of employees. You can also think about menswear. Casual denim, twill, like khakis, are in a different man land than suiting slacks and dress slacks. So that's occasion-based shopping. Do I have somewhere super special to go? Is it a black tie event? Am I shopping for work or am I shopping for a weekend in Palm Springs? That as a priority is different than style as a priority, right? So style as a priority says maybe I like casual, looser fitting clothing. Maybe it's rooted in traditional fits with a modern twist or an updated twist. And regardless of my occasion, whether it's work or weekend, I'm generally going to be found in this style of clothing. Maybe my style is fitted or athletic and trim. Maybe I am always on trend or maybe a little bit ahead of the fashion trend. And whether I am going to Las Vegas or presenting to my boss and the rest of my peers, my style is pretty much going to be that style. And so regardless of what the occasion is, I know that this is my land or that's my land. And so for a full-line department store, that inquiry, though that question can seem simple, how do my customers shop? It's very, very complex. And so we set about to study that. And retailers, you should set about to study that. Like really ask yourself as you're making your assortment buys or as you're going to trade shows to investigate new vendors, how do your customers shop and how do they want to shop? And so when I started this project, I was excited because I was putting on my investigative hat. And I thought that my first project was going to be super glamorous. I thought maybe I could study trend reports from huge companies like WGSN. Or I thought maybe I would participate in focus groups where we can find people that are our ideal customers and ask them questions like, hey, how do you shop? What did you buy recently? How do you want to shop? Or I thought I might be part of a larger group that brainstormed, wow, our customers are changing, or we need to be changing with the next generation that's coming up. How do we actually want them to shop, and how do we get there? And investigating in any of those ways would have been glamorous and amazing. And I investigated in none of those ways. I actually started by looking at blueprints, a lot of blueprints. And this is important for you to know as a retailer. And I've seen time and time again that for small and independent retailers, this notion of understanding your blueprint and how your store is laid out and how much product you have within your blueprint, there isn't enough focus there. And I didn't know, with 10 years of corporate retail under my belt, I didn't know why it was important until the first blueprint was like laid across my desk, and I had many. And as I was looking at blueprints, I was counting little tiny fixtures and presuming how much inventory fit in each type of fixture and doing some math. Because what I was looking at was unit density. And I was looking at really sales per square foot. And if that is a new phrase for you, I really encourage you just to type into your Google search bar when you have a moment, why is sales per square foot important in retail? It's of critical importance because it is one of the quickest and easiest ways to measure return on investment. It is a way that retail lease management companies can help determine what rental rates are going to be. It's a way for inventory buyers to understand how much inventory you need to actually fuel the fire. Think through if you're going to a bonfire on the beach, how long do you want to be sitting out there? Depending on how long you want to sit out there for, that's how much firewood you bring. If it's a little, you bring a little. If it's a lot, you bring a lot. But you don't want to buy too much, because what are you going to do with extra firewood, right? So there's a lot of science around productivity. There's a lot of science around productivity per square foot and sales per square foot. And we're going to dive deep because you're ready to dive deep with me. You're only measuring the sales floor. You're only measuring where product is, the productivity of where the product lives, and not anywhere that customers never go, like a stockroom or the bathroom or the back office, or these like little tiny nooks and crannies where you hide things and you hope your customer never sees. There is a difference between selling space and non-selling space. And it's important not just because you want the selling space to be beautiful, but because selling, the activity of selling, requires a certain environment. You would never have an environment that doesn't look beautiful, that isn't well merchandised, that isn't easily shoppable, that doesn't have a clear path of circulation, that isn't well merchandised, that doesn't have beautiful visual displays, right? You take a lot of pride in your retail floor, and that experience is your brand experience. You would never take a customer to your back stock room and say, hey, shop from back here, right? That's not, that is a very different business model. That's not, that may be your business model, but it's a really different business model, right? That's like more warehouse style. And how much inventory you can carry in each type of space, like a sales floor versus a stock room, is very, very different. And what happens when stores are unproductive, when you're looking at how much square footage you have and you're looking at your return on investment, the less return you have, the more you want to cut operating expenses. And the two easiest ways to cut operating expenses are in your cost of goods sold, your inventory, and in your square footage. This is important to know in order to get a flavor for what is happening in the industry and why are all of these stores closing? What is happening to shopping malls? To know and understand productivity for what's happening there is going to help you manage your productivity for what's happening here. We went deep, so thank you for going with me, because you need to know. You need to know this stuff. So keeping return on investment in mind and keeping productivity in mind, I want to just re-ground ourselves in what happened this holiday season, because store closures were happening before the holidays, but I just kind of want to re-ground us with what's happening in the state of brick and mortar retail by reflecting on just what's happening in retail in general. So I'm really going to focus on information from First Data. I have no affiliation with them. This is certainly not an advertisement, but I would just want to give you context. So they are a point of sale technology company that sells both hardware and software, and they service a deep and broad assortment of accounts, from retail to restaurants, e-commerce, mobile, like mobile food trucks or non-store retailing. That would be pop-up shops, craft shows for you makers, trade shows. That's who they service. And they published some fantastic data about holiday sales. I referenced it last week. Their report is called Spend Trend, Holiday Season 2016, and it is very insightful. If you like this forensic investigation like I do, just search Spend Trend, Holiday 2016 First Data, and you will get this report, and you'll be able to dive in a little bit more, especially if you have a few locations throughout the U.S. It might be very interesting for you, or if you're trying to develop a more robust online presence, this could be very interesting for you as well. So overall, sales growth for the full holiday season was 4.7%, and that includes everything except gas, like gasoline for your vehicle. Retail as a subset of overall spending was up 3.6% over last year, so that's great growth. It met or exceeded in general. The sentiment is that holiday spending exceeded expectations and forecasts, and is really reflective of a recovering economy. And we know and we knew that e-commerce was going to be a more meaningful part of holiday spending this year, and it was. E-commerce grew 12% over last year. And when you look at how much e-commerce contributes to overall holiday spending, that share of pie grew bigger this year over last year. So last year, e-commerce represented 15.4% of holiday spending, and this year it broke 20%, 21.3%. That's a giant increase year over year. So if e-commerce grew 12% and overall retail grew 3.6%, where are our cohorts? Where are brick and mortars in growth for the holiday season? So brick and mortars did experience a growth. And overall, brick and mortars that were open in their version last year, same store sales were up 1.6%. So there was an incremental growth. But it's interesting to study how same store sales performed by region, because the South as a region, brick and mortar sales were down actually by 0.6%. So fewer people were shopping in stores in the South. But in the West, for example, 4.8% more revenue was driven in physical retail locations over last year. So brick and mortar selling in the West was up over the entire and outperformed the entire industry as a whole. So we know that there are regions and we know that there are locations that are doing it right, and we know that there are customers that are responding to what brick and mortar retail is putting out there. And we're going to study that. So, kind of with the state of retail in general, going more towards online, less in stores, it would come as no shock that as January rolled around, a time of year when retailers traditionally state and publish their closures for store closures for the upcoming year, that the closure announcements were notable and significantly bigger than they'd been in years past. So, stores have closed as of late. The announcements were huge, and they're going to continue to be announcing. And they start at traditional full-line store level, and because of the way that shopping has grown up, it's impacted retailers that operate primarily out of mall brick-and-mortar locations. There's a great article posted by Business Insider on December 31st with the most on-point article name. I encourage you to look it up. The article is called "A Giant Wave of Store Closures is About to Hit the U.S." And it's true. And this article is what really prompted me wanting to create this trend report for you, so you can get a flavor for it and understand where your independent or small business is in relation to capital R retail, brick and mortar, and how you can use your size to your advantage. So remember, keep in mind, full-line stores, big department stores have big blueprints and big, footprints because they carry everything. And they've struggled to maintain competitive. So keep this in mind. In this article, Business Insider says the U.S. has 23.5 square feet of retail space per person, compared to 16.4 square feet in Canada and 11.1 square feet in Australia, the next two countries with the highest retail space per capita. And so when you think through the jump of square footage per capita spending, it's giant in the U.S., giant. And this is an instance where more is more, except for when it's too much. And by that, I mean more product assortment, broad. We service everyone and we offer everything. Huge blueprints, huge stores, multi-level stores that are expansive, huge footprints, multiple locations. That's not how customers shop anymore. Customers are shopping more in a more multifaceted, multi-location approach. And as large retailers, like the list of retailers that announced closures are massive. So we knew that Macy's, Kohl's, Walmart, Sears announced closures. Who else? And then it impacted stores that operated in malls like Aeropostale, American Eagle, Chico's, Finish Line, Men's Warehouse, Children's Place. Because as large retailers vacated shopping malls, right? That's where traditionally you find full-line store department stores. As they vacated shopping malls, they just left a lot of lasting impact beyond just their own closure, because shopping malls were created to have anchor tenants, and these anchor tenants were what drove traffic to their tenancy as well as to the mall in general. And without an anchor that draws customers in, they're not getting the traffic. And so other traditional retailers that operate in shopping malls were not getting the traffic. The Business Insider article goes on to say, the closure often triggers co-tenancy clauses that allow the remaining mall tenants to exercise their rights to terminate their leases or renegotiate the terms, typically with a period of lower rents until another retailer moves in to vacate the anchor space. And I can tell you from my own experience, I've seen that happening in the Seattle area. And shopping malls are really struggling to fill space to maintain current tenancy and just to maintain the relevancy of the mall. And I have seen this holiday season where the industry is trying to get creative, and they're trying to make fits where there might not necessarily always be a good fit. For example, there may be incentives for smaller local retailers to open up a second space or a pop-up space in a shopping mall that housed traditional retail. And these smaller businesses were never planned to operate in that way. So one example could even be required hours of operation. So many small businesses are open when they know they're going to drive the most volume. So they could be open, for example, 11 to 7 and closed one day a week. In a shopping mall, a shopping mall could be open, have required open hours of 12 hours from 9 to 9, and required open Sunday through Saturday, 7 days a week. And that additional operating expense of just pure payroll is making it challenging to even try and find those unique fits. So there's like huge downstream implications. And so I want you to, we can speculate, and I'm speculating, and a lot of people in the industry are, about what's happening with brick and mortar, and we're studying it. There's competition from online, and a lot of that competition and a lot of the online success really stems from the ability to make what is inconvenient very, very convenient by way of customer service. Customer shopping patterns are changing as shoppers and the generational expectations of shoppers shift. Major department stores with full line assortments are not keeping up with changing customer trends, and because those major department stores are expensive to operate, they're starting to close. And so it's impacting shopping malls because they don't have those anchor tenants, and without some of that traffic, some of these other mall-based retailers are not getting the conversion they need to stay afloat. How we shop in brick and mortar is in fact different. And as a small business, I want you to feel knowledgeable in what's happening so that you can understand how to shape your business for the better. I don't think you need to do huge drastic shifts. I don't want you to worry yet. I'm not sharing this perspective to scare you, to tell you that the sky is falling, but to make you aware and to better prepare you for the rocky road that's ahead. And I want you to join me next week. So next Tuesday, same time, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to build on this general knowledge of what's happening in brick and mortar retail, and how you can study that, how you can study other small and independent businesses and use your size, your capabilities to your advantage so that you can remain compelling amongst the other non-store businesses that continue to grow year over year. Because I want for you to position yourself so that you have an amazing holiday 2017. Thanks so much. Have a good day, and I will catch you next week.